What's up everyone, it's a knife style here, and today I'm going to be doing a video on my first impressions on my newest knife, and this is the Spyderco Para 3. And one of my first Spydercos that I actually ever got was the Spyderco Para 3 Lightweight, which is probably not the order most people get them. I assume most people got the original Para 3 first and then the Lightweight. But for me, it was when I was new to the knife hobby that the Lightweight was coming out, and I had already gotten the PM2, so I was like, oh, I'll try that, and it's a new one. And so, yep, I got the Para 3 Lightweight, and I've always kind of been wanting a Para 3 ever since, just because after I matured a little bit and I know what my tastes are in knives, I know that the weight difference between these two is not a big deal to me at all. It's just not something that I care about, and so I kind of realized that I would prefer the regular Para 3 over the Lightweight, but I just never picked one up. Then recently, I've really been just getting into trying out steels when I've been carrying knives. I've kind of been taking a break from carrying things like my Sabenza just because I've carried this knife a ton and I'm kind of almost bored with just S35VN. I know that sounds very snobbish of me, but I've been carrying knives like my K390 Stretch, my Sasquatch, and M4, and so I've really been enjoying sharpening and using these steels that are that perform very well, and so that's what drew my attention to Cruwear. And Cruwear, this is my first experience with it, but a lot of knife guys that I watch really do like Cruwear. They really talk highly about how it sharpens. I've sharpened this once and I enjoyed it, but they just make it seem like it's a really good all-around steel. I don't think it is technically a stainless steel, but that doesn't really mean anything. Any steel out there can pretty much rust. So I know there are rust-proof steels, but technically anything with carbon in it can rust or oxidize or whatever, and rust is never a really big problem to me. So overall, this is what drew my attention to Cruwear, and a lot of people say that it is their favorite steel. But anyway, let's get into what I like so far about this knife. And yeah, I've had it for a couple days, carried it probably three days, had it for probably 4 days, and yeah, I've really liked it. I've enjoyed it. Got a little bit of use on it, one sharpening. So yeah, let's go on with the video. Sorry, I haven't done this for a couple weeks, so I'm a little bit rusty. But for the looks, I actually really like the looks of this knife. Kind of those Baltimore Ravens colors. I'm not a Ravens fan, but they are cool colors. And so yeah, overall, I like the sprint runs. I feel like with these DLC blades and the blacked out hardware, really any color of G10 is going to look good. Now, what I don't like about DLC is it just wears really easy. Not like the DLC rubbing off, but I mean, this is probably like 2 cardboard boxes that I break down worth of wear on here, and that doesn't bother me that much. But for those people who really want to clean their knives a whole lot, and want them looking perfect, DLC, if you're going to use it a little bit, probably isn't your best bet. I've just kind of decided with this knife, I don't really care how it looks. I'm just going to use it just because I got this knife to try Cruwear, so if I babied the blade, it wouldn't really make much sense. But overall, if you have a knife in DLC that you don't use, I think that they look great. It's just not my favorite coating. I'd rather just have a satin or a stonewash. Also, when you're trying to sharpen this plunge grind, that is horrible. You can see you bump into the DLC and it rubs off and doesn't look too good. But anyway, that's just my gripes about DLC, I guess. But overall, the looks on this knife are good. I bought this knife used, if you're curious. It already came with a deep carry clip. But yeah, got off the secondary market because it was a DLT sprint run, and so I couldn't buy a new. For the blade on this, already talked a little bit about Cruwear. Let's get a thickness behind the edge measurement. I haven't measured it, but I would say that it probably is, similar to your PM2 and the other Golden Colorado Spydercos at about that 20 thousandths mark. 19, yeah, about 19 thousandths, 18 maybe behind the edge. It felt like that. Sharpening, this was probably 17-ish degrees per side. Once again, I freehand, so it's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, 18 degrees per side. I'm okay with that. I expected that coming into this. Would I like it to be an ultra slicer like this at 10 thousandths behind the edge? Yes, but you can't really expect a production company to do that. So overall, I am content with that. And overall, the Para 3 blade shape is great. I really enjoy it. It's a very functional blade shape and really just a functional knife as a whole. And so yeah, overall with the blade, I think Cruwear pairs perfectly with this. And yeah, I think that it's going to be a knife that is just going to be a go-to knife for me. And overall, the blade is good. With this plunge grind here, it was actually one of the worst ones that I've seen. It just had a really big flare up, and so I didn't finish it on the first sharpening. It looks pretty bad right now, but I'm just going to be patient, just keep sharpening it as it needs to be, and then I won't waste a bunch of steel in doing that. But that's one of my gripes about Spyderco. They always talk about how they don't do a sharpening choil here because they don't want material to get caught in there, but they don't even sharpen the knife all the way back. So material won't get caught in there, but still, it's not a sharpened part of the blade, so it won't be able to cut the material, and it's just kind of annoying, and it is a decent amount of work on my hand that I'd rather not do. But one weird thing about the Para 3 blade shape for me, and all these PM2s, the military as well, they all have a distal taper that is very dramatic. It's kind of hard to describe, and if we're just looking at the tip, I'm a big fan of this distal taper. A lot of people hate the tip, how thin it is, but I found that it's very useful for EDC, and it's just very good at cutting. I don't really know what else to say about it, but they all start very thick and then get very thin at the tip, and I would say that this stock thickness right here at the thickest point, that is probably like I think it's like 140 thousandths, which usually 120 thousandths is what you see for like an average EDC knife, and that is pretty thick. That's probably what you'd see on like a hard use knife if you want to go with that, I guess, category of knives. But then it gets down to this super thin tip, so it's like a hard use stock thickness up here and then a super thin tip up here. So feel like it's trying to be two things at once, and it would just be better if it was just thinner all around, in my opinion. But they probably did it just because it's the same thickness on the PM2 and I believe on the Milli too, so they wouldn't have to, you know, dial everything down and change a bunch of the tolerances for their machines. They're just kind of making the whole knife a little bit shorter. So yeah, that is one thing I don't like, but overall, it doesn't bother me all that much. Overall, for the blade, pretty much what I expected, and I'm enjoying it so far. For the fit and finish and lockup, I can wiggle out a little bit of side-to-side play. The action's very drop shut, so I bet it wouldn't be like that if I tightened it to where there's no blade play. Honestly, that amount of blade play doesn't bother me. If I take this thing apart, I'll probably adjust it, but we are centered on here, so that is good, and no lock rock on this. And overall, the finishing on the handle scales is one thing that I really like about the Para 3. As you can see, there is a chamfer, a pretty decently sized chamfer going all the way around there, while on the PM2 you don't have that, and this makes it a lot more comfortable in your hand, so I like that. And compression lock on this guy, compression lock, solid locking mechanism, very strong. My only problems with it, some knives you get a hot spot from it. This one I have not noticed it, so that is a good feature of this. And yeah, very strong locking mechanism, easy to operate one-handed, and if you are a fidgeter, very fun to play with. You can just do this all day, which I know a lot of the sprint run collectors like to do. Not really my thing, but it is sometimes, you know, if I'm on my break or something, I can just open this, yeah, and have fun with my knife, because yeah, that's I don't know. But for the ergonomics of this, the ergonomics are better than I expected, better than the PM2 in my opinion, which you wouldn't think because, you know, this is a smaller knife than that, but that chamfer really makes a big difference. In this choked up grip, it feels really good, especially this choked up hammer grip. I use this pinch grip right here a lot, and that feels great, so I really do like that. A lot of people skinny mod these or will get aftermarket skinny scales. I might do that. I'm still not sure what I'm going to want to do with this knife, like if I want to mod it out or not. But I see why they do it, because this hump right here isn't that comfortable when you hold it like this, because your middle finger goes on that incline part, and your middle finger is bigger than your pointer finger, and so it almost tilts your hand like that. While here it's fine, but here you kind of feel like you're at an awkward cutting angle, so I see why people do the skinny mod. And also, one complaint I guess I'd have about the ergonomics, which I think a lot of people have, is in this choked back grip, you see my pinky is right on that top part right there. It's not really that uncomfortable, but I don't feel like I don't have huge hands or anything. At most large size glove hands, but I could probably fit into mediums. And so a lot of people with the bigger hands aren't going to be a fan of that. Now, honestly, with this knife, I rarely ever use this choke back grip. I'm pretty much going to be like that, or like that. And so, yep, I don't have any problems with it. This pocket clip, don't get any hot spots with it, which is something that you kind of see with deep carry clips. I think this is an MXG gear clip. I'm not positive. It'd be cool if it was a Lynch clip. But yeah, I'm not sure. For kind of issue that I've always had with the Para 3, PM2, and Millie series of knives is this huge hump with the thumb hole right here. It just it's not the best for ergonomics, and the reason I don't like it is because if you're in this choked up grip, your thumb, it's not comfortable for me to put my thumb there. My thumb would be comfortable like right here, but like that, my thumb is all the way locked out back here, and it almost locks my wrist up a little bit. I just can't move it as much, and so for those reasons, if I'm choked up, I'm mainly going like that or like that. If you're choked back, I'm fine with it, don't have any issues, but it just is kind of annoying. That's one reason I like the Sage 5 and also the Native, because this is a lot more comfortable right here than this much more defined incline on the back of the Para 3 blade. So yeah, I guess ergonomics, it is better than the PM2, but I still have some issues. Overall good though. I do. This knife is an overall comfortable knife. For the carry of it, the carry is actually really good. I guess I'll do a weight because I usually do that in these videos. 3.5 ounces. No, what was that? That wasn't 3.5. That was 3.3. Okay. 3.3 ounces overall. Lightweight, light enough. Carry it in shorts, sweatpants. I have no problems with it. This deep carry clip actually does work good. I'm kind of a notorious hater of deep carry clips. Not really a hater of them in general, just confused on why people automatically switch their knives out to deep carry clips. But I understand it on the Para 3, because if you look here, if you have a standard Spyderco clip, you probably have, I'd say, that much sticking out of your pocket, and that is a pretty decent amount for this small of knife. So a lot of people switch to deep carry clips right off for that. My main issue is with knives like the PM2. I switched to a deep carry clip with this when I was like new to the knife game, and it just doesn't make any sense. It honestly makes it worse because I don't have as much to grab onto, and so yeah. And if this with the stock clip, it's perfectly fine. I need to change it back because I can't keep. It's like I say one thing, but I have a deep carry clip on this, so it doesn't really make much sense what I'm saying. But with a knife that doesn't have a deep carry clip, I like it because I have a little bit to grab onto. People will make the argument, and it's like, oh, it's harder to not see a knife in your pocket if you or if you don't have a deep carry clip, you're going to have a little bit of knife sticking out of your pocket. That's never been an issue for me. I don't live in a place where people freak out if they see you have a pocket knife in your pocket, which I guess I am blessed for, but I think that really makes you question other people, why they'd be freaking out so much. But overall, deep carry clips, I don't really see the purpose of them, but on the Para 3, this one works good. And honestly, if I had this stock clip, I assumed that it'd be pretty uncomfortable because my whole hand would pretty much be on the thing. So knowing me, I probably would have switched it out, even if I bought this, from a retailer. But for the action on this, the action is good, like I showed earlier. If you like to play with your knives, this thing drops shut. You can Spidey flick it, do all that fun stuff. And yeah, overall the action is good. For the value of this, I honestly don't know what price this was. I got this for like 200 something, low 200s. I honestly forget the number. But that was steeper than retail. I probably could have gotten a better deal if I searched around more, but this one was brand new. And I assume, just looking at what DLT kind of does, this was probably around that 170, 180 mark, I'd say, and that is good. For the regular Para 3, 140, 150 for the S45VN base version. I think that's a fine deal. Overall, solid knife. I know you can get a cheaper knife that is just as good as this for a $50 or whatever, but I think that Spyderco, it's a trusted brand. Compression lock's a good locking mechanism. You're going to get a blade that has a good heat treat on it and is processed pretty well, and you're overall going to get a solid everyday carry knife. And so yeah, overall it is worth it in my opinion. Value is one of those topics where, you know, after I buy a knife, it's not like I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have never bought this because I'm out of money now. It's not really like that. I save up money for knives and then I buy them, so I'm not really concerned that much about the value, unless I would have gotten this knife and then it had tons of flaws and I'd be like, well, I paid $200 for this. I would have been upset about that. But if it doesn't have any fatal flaws, then I pretty much expected what I was going to get. The value is really just what it is. And so yeah, that's all I got for today. For this first impressions video. Sorry if it was a little bit all over the place. Like I said, haven't made a video in like 3 weeks. I don't really have an excuse for it. I honestly just haven't been buying knives. I've mainly been carrying this knife, my Emerson A100, this fixed blade here, and my K390 stretch. So, you know, I kind of enjoy it though, because it seems like when I'm uploading, you know, 3-4 times a week, I'm switching up knives constantly. It is kind of almost refreshing to just carry the same knife over and over. No, okay, it took me 3 days of use and then I stropped it. Took me another 3 days, stropped it again. Then after a week, I sharpened it up again. It's just nice to have that mental, I guess, documentation, or just kind of you feel like you get a whole lot more use and a whole lot more understanding of the knife when you carry the same knife every day for an extended period of time. But that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.